I've been ready from the jump. Tell me anything, but never tell me that I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm on. You can bet I've been above. You can never see me like I'm John. Seen it with a song. Yeah, we kicking in the whip, boy, then vroom, vroom. Invisible like Bitcoin, but all around, we taking over the world. I'm making home with the girl, head to tail like a flip coin. You can take it how you want. I've been up having fun. Yeah, baby, this ain't a disjoint. I ain't famous, I'm a boss. I've been up stacking sauce. Do you share the hit, boy?
What's up, everybody? This is the Kent Farm Podcast. My name is Clue. Here I have with me Oddsox and Sandro Falce.
Yo.
Hello.
Now, a couple of days ago, we had a little bit of a chat about watching a movie that personally I love and Sandro had seen before, but Oddsox had not seen at all. And as somebody who wasn't really a fan of comic books or comic book movies, rather, I wanted to reach out to him with this film. One, because I needed to rewatch it anyway before Zack comes out.
Yeah.
But two, because he had mentioned how he doesn't really like the Marvel formula or the Marvel the way, like sort of how bright and sort of repetitive they are.
Yes.
Where my thought was, he had mentioned that he liked the Dark Knight trilogy and the fact that it was written by the same writer, and then of course Christopher Nolan produced this. I thought this might be more up his alley, and obviously we've put the video out now, and this is after we've watched the movie. We're gonna have a bit of a breakdown on all of that. So I guess let's just go up off the top. We'll start with you, Sandro, and
Yep.
Obviously your situation was you had seen the film a couple of times, but you haven't seen it since 2016 before Batman vs Superman came out.
That's right, yeah.
And you were looking forward to seeing whether your opinion had changed. So we'll just start basic and then we'll go into a bit more detail after. But on a general level, where are you at after the recent watch?
In terms of compared to the last time I saw it, the same. I enjoyed it as much as I thought I would. There were some things that I don't particularly love, but that is outshined, I think, in parts by just how fun it is. It's enjoyable. Yeah, my opinion hasn't actually changed at all, which is really surprising, actually, considering it's been 5 years since I saw it last.
So I guess in saying that, were you expecting your opinion to go up, expecting it to go down when you say that you're surprised?
I don't know. I feel like I've become more of a Superman purist in the last 5 years. Since reading some more Golden Age comics and watching the animated series and all that. So yeah. I was expecting it to maybe drop a little bit or to be the opposite, because I also don't think too much of the re-films for it to go up and be like, this is my Superman movie. So it just kind of evened out, I guess, and somewhere in the middle is where it landed, and my opinion hasn't really changed.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. That's totally as I said, the fact that it had been 5 years and films can tend to age differently depending on time and just who you are. The fact that it sort of remained in a similar position is it's great. And, and Oddsox, with you, I guess obviously because we can't ask whether your opinion has changed. I guess what were you sort of expecting, and did it pass expectations or fall below what you were sort of expecting?
In terms of what I was expecting, I wasn't really sure, because Superman's sort of one of those superheroes that I've always felt a bit weird about, because you know how like a lot of superheroes have flaws. It feels like Superman's like infallible in a way, which I've always found really strange. In terms of the film, what I thought same with Sandro, that it was quite fun, but there were like still a lot of flaws in parts and things that I didn't particularly like, but I still like was able to switch off those thoughts and just go, hey, this is fun.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, let's get into that. So obviously talking about particular aspects that you did like about the film. What was it, and we'll start with you, Oddsox, but what was it that were moments in the film that you thought sort of stood out, that made you go, yeah, this is fun, I like where this is going, or the portrayal of the character, or whatever it was that made it positive for you?
Yeah, well, I think the start of the film, like visually, is really, really cool. I was talking to Sandro about this earlier, and I'm probably going to get butchered for this. But you know when Russell Crowe's flying on, it's not a dragon, is it? What's the technical name for what Russell Crowe
I don't know.
I don't think, yeah.
You don't know either.
Not off the top of my head. Yeah.
I'm calling it a dragon. I'm calling that shit a dragon. Yeah.
I don't think Krypton ever looked like this before this film. I think this one was the one that kind of made Krypton look like this. From memory, I could be wrong.
I think you're right. Like a lot of the way that Krypton is sort of look is like fucking crystals and shit. It always like you look at like Smallville and like anything Krypton is just like ice crystal shit. Like it's just this was a very unique look for it. But anyway, so as you were saying, when Jor was flying on the dragon.
Dick, I know I can swear as well. So when Russell Crowe's on the dragon, I think that whole star part was really cool. Like it's pretty grand, and it throws you straight in. Even if I was a little bit confused because I think it did assume some knowledge at the start, but like I was really enjoying the star part. Throughout the film, I thought visually it was like really good. And the score as well throughout the film. In some places, it felt almost too grand, but then I was like, by the end, I was just freaking loving it. And then I was like, oh, one who did this. And I was like, well, he's the god. Like, I hated myself because I messaged Sandro and I was like, oh, the score feels a little bit out of place. And when I saw it was him, I'm like, I'm such an asshole. Hans
Zimmer is going to knock on your door now. Yeah, no, I think Hans Zimmer is fantastic, at everything he does, and I can't think of somebody above him in terms of scoring. One aspect that... Oh, sorry, go on. Go.
I said I was just shook because there were so many sub drops. Like it felt like even my TV couldn't handle it. It was constantly like...
Yeah. I think this film has a record. It broke a record for like the most amount of drums being played at once or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
which is great.
My understanding was that Junkie XL was involved somehow, and he sort of tends to lean more on that the big drums and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So he worked with Hans Zimmer on that. So you sort of find that, and this sort of went across to Batman vs Superman as well. You find that the big drum sort of stuff and big epic things would be Junkie XL, whereas then the more like operatic stuff, that sort of the higher melodic sort of stuff tends to be Hans, and I think they sort of blended together really well, personally. But yeah, one thing I just did want to point out myself regarding the Krypton scene that I remembered from watching the film back in 2013 was I was sort of expecting a title card. And I remember watching it and sort of going, this opening scene is going on for a really long time. And, I'm expecting the sort of, Man of Steel title to come up or something like that. And it didn't. And then I remember sitting there because I did go back and see it and then noting, did I just miss it? And I was thinking, oh, okay, no, I didn't miss it. And then so that was something that I remembered that I thought was interesting from the start. From back then, there was no title card in the film.
Yeah, because like from 2013 onwards, that was kind of when we got the start of no title card. But I don't think we'd seen that before in a superhero film, aside from maybe Nolan Batman. But that also had the bats at the start, which is kind of a title card. So yeah, exactly. So it's sort of just the DC Comics, whatever the company is, straight into it. So obviously, Scene Copy in this one was Nolan's film or film production company. And I think Legendary Pictures from memory. I think so.
I remember saying that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, and this was the one. This is actually another interesting thing that I found was that Syncopy has only ever. This is the only film that Syncopy has produced that wasn't directed by Nolan to this day.
Wow.
So it's literally just like Nolan films Man of Steel, Zack Snyder. That's it.
That's cool.
Which I thought is interesting. But yes, obviously, Sandro, your thoughts on the Krypton scene, and I suppose as Oddsox had said, assumed knowledge. Was there anything that you sort of felt like you were missing? I know you're a bit more familiar. I never felt that, but again, I'm a bit more familiar, so I
don't. There's some stuff when like he's diving for the codex where they don't really explain what that is until after he gets it. So there was a little bit of like, wait, what's going on? What's this weird like matrix incubation chamber that the trial's swimming through? But aside from that, not particularly. I mean, the story isn't really told in like chronological order either, and I think that can be a little bit confusing if this is your first Superman film.
Or
perhaps
any film that deals with like flashbacks or series. I find that can be jarring for a lot of people who aren't sort of familiar with that as a
definitely
as a form of storytelling.
That's true, but I love the Krypton opening. I was surprised how well the visuals like hold up as well. Snyder's always been really good at covering up some visual angles that might not look amazing with like shaky cam, and I think he did that really well, particularly in that opening panning shot. And the digital doubles and stuff when they're like jumping around just throughout the entire movie held up way better than any other film from 2013 that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and considering that it was 8 years ago, even watching back on I'm watching on the 4K TV, and it does often pick those little things up, but I didn't really notice anything like that jumping at you while watching this film. All right, well, so anything else that sort of was in the positive that you guys wanted to talk about off the top of your head, or do you want to move into things that you didn't like?
I want to mention Henry Cavill. I mean, I remember the first time I saw this film, I had no idea who he was. I think I might have seen one episode of The Tudors and gone, not for me. So I was not familiar with him at all at this point. And the way that he like holds himself in this movie, the way he walks around is really, really good. Like his facial expressions.
He seems like a movie star from the start. I feel
he really does.
You'd be like, he'd done like 10 films beforehand. It's like, no, this was his first major one. No, I would agree with that. And I feel like that's sort of a lot of the embodiment of the role. Like you couldn't not have that sort of charisma or confidence in the role of Superman, because then you just wouldn't be able to play Superman. So
there's maybe a couple lines that they could have done a better take for, but it's like a handful, I think.
He's a good-looking man.
On
maybe have some questions.
Your thoughts, Oddsox? Anything further that you want to add?
I do not know. No, I think the main points, like I said, like I really like that the start part. I actually really like the inclusion of Russell Crowe throughout it. I'm a fan of his work in general, so I agree. More him. Yeah. So when he was there, and I really like that. And when you talking in terms of assumed knowledge, it was just little things like when Lois Lane first went to was first introduced, they didn't say she was at a newspaper until a fair bit after. And you're just like, what's this lady doing here, and what's this and what's that? But like,
so you didn't even know, you didn't even sort of know that like the basics, like Lois Lane, Daily Planet. You didn't.
No, I didn't. I know that Clark Kent does like the really poor, like who is he? I've never seen him before. Like the ultimate disguise. Which,
you know what I find really
Rockwell did the same thing.
You know what's funny about that is Henry Cavill walked around Times Square in glasses with a Superman shirt on and didn't get recognized. They spent so he was like, "You want to know how Clark Kent doesn't get recognized? This is how." And he walked around and they filmed it. And it is ridiculous that happened. But he has a video of him just walking around in Times Square of all places and not being recognized. Okay, so that's interesting, because I think like, and again, assume knowledge, like this is something that I personally feel is in like the general zeitgeist. Like I remember watching Smallville when I was a kid and saying, saying to my mum, who's Superman's girlfriend again? And she said, Lois Lane. And I was like, oh, right. Because I don't know, he's dating some chick called Lana in this. Like, I don't really get what's going on.
Yeah.
This is like prior to Lois being introduced. But that sort of, Lois being a reporter is a huge part of her character. And I did want to say on that, Amy Adams' portrayal of the character, and I feel like the way they played her out to be definitely more than what a lot of other female characters, particularly in superhero movies, get portrayed. I feel like Lois was definitely a pillar of strength, and she was sort of leaning on him. She was the one chasing the lead. There was no, like, I think the line that I really liked was her just saying, "Oh, I'm not a lady. I'm a journalist." Like she just sort of was cutting through that bullshit of, "Oh, no, you're not judging me on this level. I'm a journalist." And I thought that was something that personally I felt Snyder has done well across his movies, and he's sort of pushed it. And his wife, Debbie, who is a producer on his films, is often really they're very focused on the portrayal of women in their films. And Amy Adams, I think, was a standout point.
She's fantastic.
On that point, of strong women in the films, Feora, Zod's, the second in command for Zod was another one who, though she wasn't a huge aspect of the story, I feel like she was definitely someone of strength. As well, which was cool.
And of course, Diane Lane as Ma Kent is fantastic. I can't think of anyone else from in the zeitgeist of 2013 to play her. I mean, Diane Lane is perfect.
That's right. Well, jumping off that, how did you find Kevin Costner?
Dad, Kevin Costner being the dad,
Yes. Jonathan.
Yeah, no, I thought he was really warm. I quite liked him. Like I think that some of the flashbacks can go into strange territory, but as far as him as an actor, I thought he was quite warm in the role, and he seemed really fatherly to me anyway.
Yeah. So let's talk strange territory then regarding some of the flashbacks. I have a feeling I know what particular flashback, but when you're talking strange territory, what where are your thoughts on that?
Sandro, do you want to take this one?
It's his death, right? It's the tornado. Yeah, I can see what they're trying to do. I think the performances are really good in that scene, but it definitely has that sense of, I don't know, like movie logic in that it needs to happen for the movie to happen, but the way they did it, I think could have been a little bit better. Because whenever, the tornado comes and Jonathan Kent swept away and Henry Cavill and his like teenage hairdo goes, no, I do laugh a little bit, just a little bit.
I'm laughing at the teenage hair though. I'm not laughing at the teenage hair.
I don't know.
And I will say, like the very obvious, "You're not my real dad" conversation being had beforehand. It's like any adoptive story of all time, and of course this is probably the most iconic adopted kid story of all time. But
Superman and Annie, that's what I always say.
It's very much a cliche that I can appreciate is one of those things. But
also how old is he in that scene? Like he looks like he's 38. Why are your parents doing this?
I sort of felt like he was maybe, because of his hair, supposed to be like 20, maybe. But it's definitely one of those moments that probably needed to have another variation of teenage Clark, but at the same time was probably in that zone of, if it was teenage Clark, it would, or like early 20s Clark, he would look too different to Henry for it to be believable at that point either. And also, I feel like it was important that Henry was the one in the role for that moment.
Yeah,
But
for
I
it to
can
hit harder.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But I
true.
can also appreciate that that's he does look a lot older than he is supposed to. I just want to bring up something, and you guys just talk for a second, and Oddsox just go on more about this scene. There was just one moment from directly after
Just
that
talk
scene that I
amongst
sent
yourselves.
to Sandro. Talk amongst yourselves. There's one moment from that scene I did.
Fuck off,
Sandro.
Flo. You're
I'm
not
just
my real
going
dad.
Just going to bring it up now.
Awesome.
So this was a moment that I sent to Sandro after this, saying this is something I thought of pretty.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
I'm already laughing thinking about it. It's very good.
Is it going in the group chat?
No. I'm bringing it up on the screen here.
Okay, cool.
This was something that I thought was pretty funny. When I noticed this scene, my first thought was you, 2018. With the hat, and I couldn't help but see Penn Bagley or whatever his name is from you, which Sandra hasn't seen, but I think he understood the reference, and that did make me laugh. As a huge fan of this film, and once again, this is one of my favorite films of all time. I saw this scene, and the first thing that I thought of was like, why is he wearing the hat like that? So
it's a strange disguise. But it's a good scene, and they both act really well in it. So it's good.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess what I'll point out is a couple of things. One thing that they often reference is that you don't. Oh, you lost me there for a second.
Yeah.
Yep.
The dramatic.
All good now, I think.
All right, we're all good. One thing that's often mentioned is that they don't feel like you see enough of, or don't believe that this variation or this version of Superman would save people. Watching this film again, was trying to find where that criticism might be valid, but I also was like, it doesn't make I don't understand how that criticism is valid, because personally, every single flashback you watch is something to do with him going out of his way to save people. He may not be in the costume yet.
Yeah.
He's not. It's him trying to work out who he is and saving people along the way, because he knows that that's something that he needs to do. Would you find that that's a criticism that's valid, or either of you?
Which one?
Go for it, Matt. Oddsox, I mean, that's not your name.
Who's Matt? I don't know.
Who's this Matt?
I don't get that at all. That's the first time me hearing that criticism. But he's done heaps of stuff constantly to save people. He obviously has empathy for people throughout the film. Man's got to stop breaking mirrors, because throughout his life there is way too many disasters occurring. But that aside, he's always. I didn't get that at all, and I thought he was portrayed in a way that he seemed to have great empathy. He seemed to have care. He's gone out of his way to save people constantly. Yeah, I don't get that at all.
Yeah, it's a different level of stakes that I think he's going up here with on his first mission, because his first major event as Superman is to stop Zod, and that is massive.
Attack.
Yeah, and of course some buildings are probably going to get destroyed in this fight. I mean, they both got crazy laser eyes or whatever. They're both very strong, so I think it makes sense on that level. I can see how maybe including a montage in the motion picture could have maybe gotten rid of some of those criticisms. Just see him save a cat from a tree once. Those criticisms are gone probably. But
I don't really
see that
happened from that is that cat saving scene was just stupid. They shouldn't have put that in.
It was stupid.
That's the criticism that would have come out.
And he's new to the job. Like, this is his first time in the gig, so he's not going to be like perfection throughout it. Like, he's got to work his way into the role.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the sort of thing that I personally find that you know, and I think there's a lot of discussion about. I often say to people, you know, the hard thing with these films is that Zack won't start this character where you want him to be. The thing that he finds interesting is the journey to become that character. So you look at something like The Destruction or all of that sort of stuff that people go, well, my Superman wouldn't let the city get destroyed. Well, he was trying to stop an alien. My Superman would have flown him to a field somewhere and then tried to talk to him about it, about his feelings. And then if he had to, then he would throw a punch, maybe, but it would be in a field. And I just look at that and I go, look, it's day one Superman who causes this massive destruction, doing all that he can to stop this villain who is doing everything he can to destroy this. It's a lesson, you know. He looks at it in the future and goes, well, that happened that once. I need to make sure that never happens again. And that gives him a reason to never do that. And that's, you know, a puzzle piece to becoming the character that that everybody knows and loves. And I think a lot of the criticism comes from people who want to walk into a cinema and see the character directly from the comics straight away. But personally, I think that's boring. We don't see any journey. There's no,
Yeah, and also like that does then lead into the more interesting parts of Batman versus Superman and just the universe in general as well, which is all the lawsuits and stuff he has to go through for all this collateral. Also, I do want to bring up the Zod death. That was heavily criticized at the time, and like there are definitely things I don't like about this movie, but that one criticism I don't get, because he kills Zod in Superman 2. Like everyone's like, he's, you know, like Reeve is a better Superman. He kills Zod and friends in 2. He doesn't just kill Zod. He kills all of them. He kills all 3. And also like on the rewatch, it's interesting how he does give Zod a choice. He's like,
every chance,
don't do this. Yeah. And every time he decides to, you know, go out of his way to try and hurt as many civilians as possible.
Do you want to talk on that any further, Oddsox?
No, I think that's nail on the head. I haven't seen I haven't seen the second one, so like I don't fully spoiler alert, but that's okay.
So I guess
if I haven't seen it by now, that's my bad. But
I guess on that though, seeing Superman killing Zod, was that something that, and I know you're not overly familiar with the character or the lore, but was that something that jumped out at you like, oh, he shouldn't have done that?
Nah, not at all. No, because if he's dealing, I always thought that, like, I understand, like, they're not Robin Hood, where it's like, we can't kill. Like, if you're a bad motherfucker, surely that means that's par for the course.
Well, I think a lot of the thing is Superman in the comics, for a majority of the comics, wouldn't kill. Batman.
A lot of that was also because of the rating system used in comics as well at the time, which I don't think most people know, which is really, So Batman, same rule. Batman doesn't kill, but then and I find it interesting because a lot of the criticisms in this, and obviously the next film where Batman's introduced, is that there are scenes where killing happens and people say, my Batman doesn't kill, whereas my Superman doesn't kill. Whereas, as Sandro said, you look back at the Reeves films and you look back at the Nolan films and kill so many people in the Nolan films. He's got a tank that he's firing at people with.
Yeah, and the Tim Burton and the Tim Burton film. There's a scene that I just think is phenomenal where a guy's running at Batman and he turns his car around and then clicks the boost button and the fire comes out the back of the Batmobile and lights the guy on fire, and he's just like laughing about it as he takes off. But I find, like, and this is something that has been pretty much since day one, Zack Snyder's a very divisive director. I think it's why a lot of people, myself included, really, really love his stuff. But it's also why a lot of people really hate his stuff. And I think that that's where a lot of the criticisms come in. It's got nothing to do with the fact that, Superman doesn't kill, Batman doesn't kill. It's, I don't like that this particular person did this thing to the character that the way I like it. But I think Michael Keaton's the best Batman. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. I love Christopher Reeves as Superman. And you go, that's great, but they did the same thing and you had no criticism there. So, yeah,
but surely if you over the years, you update the costume, you update you're updating everything about it. Surely like attitudes and like what happens would also update. And as you said, like Sandro, like if it's just simply like a rating system and a thing, we can't do this over time. Surely I don't understand the criticism that over time the superheroes' ideas have changed. Like,
I mean, he's still a pillar of hope, and you wouldn't see him like Brightburn style threatening the house and purposefully trying to hurt people. But and also like it's his first time as well. He doesn't understand quite how strong he is a big part of this movie. So there's a bunch of different things. And like if we do ever get a Henry Cavill movie after Justice League, I'm sure he might end up being that Superman rather, that a lot of people want him to be, because that's the journey, the journey throughout the trilogy.
That was definitely part of it. And they've talked about different directors taking on the character, which if Henry Cavill's involved and it's not Joss Whedon directing, then I'm totally on board with seeing a brighter Superman.
Yeah.
That continues on that story from where he grew to become, not he's just instantly like he's just taking a fucking eating a bunch of sugar and then he's like chemical X type shit. Like all of a sudden he's the sweetest thing in the world. Like that's not who this character was. But if there's a journey to get there, then I'm so on board with that happening. So I guess, was there anything else that sort of jumped out at you, likes, dislikes? I just thought of one other thing that's in terms of criticism that someone I saw mentioned today was that the way they should have done it was, if it was really the Superman from the comics, he would have found out a way to rebuild the Phantom Zone and put Zod there. And I just thought, and he goes, "You would have knocked him out." And I said, well, I ended up just saying it as like responding as Henry Cavill's Superman, saying, "Hey Zod, I'm about to knock you out. Do you mind staying knocked out while I go to a location I don't know anything about to find technology I don't know exists in order to rebuild it and fix it to lock you away forever, or until you escape again, like you just did."
That's fine for a Smallville when you've got 22 episodes of time for him to figure out how to do it. This takes place in like 3 hours, this movie. Like the battle is like 3 hours, real time. So I can't exactly see how a fresh Superman would go on and do that.
No, he would have worked out the Kryptonian technology. I'm like, he didn't even know it existed. He didn't know it existed. I don't know what you want from him. So that's stupidity. But hey, there was other aspects of the film I thought that I remember really liking then and rewatching it. I think General Swanwick, Harry Lennox's General Swanwick is fantastic. I really, really like him. I like him then.
Martian Manhunter, right?
Ultimately, he becomes Martian Manhunter. But I remember just thinking back then, like I really liked him as, I guess he was sort of a foil, like he didn't like Superman. I love that sort of there is these subtle little jokes here and there, like that moment where the guy says, "Oh, they're coming up and they've got the Superman in tow," and he's like, "What?" He goes, "That Superman, that's what they're calling him." Like I thought that was a fun, like, this is how he gets his name, sort of thing.
Mm.
But yeah, I personally thought Harry Lennox as General Swanwick was great.
Oh, it's a good performance. Yeah, I, with the knowledge that he's meant to be, Manhunter this whole time, you could definitely say, why didn't he intervene? I mean, this is like a massive alien invasion, and he's just like, oh, just gonna chill here. Superman can deal with it. He's brand new. He's killing heaps of civilians, apparently. Oh, I'll just leave it to him.
I would agree with that. And I know that Zack has sort of come out and said, look, this is something that I thought up later. It sort of makes sense.
Yeah. And this is also like written by Goyer as well. It's not written by Snyder. So
exactly. And he sort of said, there were moments like when they are trying to terraform the planet, and he says they're trying to turn Earth into Krypton. And people have pointed out nobody said Krypton to him before that. So
true.
So the fact that he sort of knows about it, it's like, okay. But the biggest tell is the scene where they bring Superman in, and he's got the handcuffs on, and he's just sitting there like going through the motions with it. He's chatting to him through.
No, that was cool.
And then he stands up, and he just like, it's like, so clean.
That scene is great.
Over, and everybody sort of backs away from the window except for General Swanwick, who's like standing just eye to eye with him. He's like, let's put our cards on the table, General. Like, neither of them flinch. That's another moment that people go, he's noticeably totally fine with it. And I think Harry Lennox has said, he felt like his character was a general who had been through a lot of stuff. And despite the fact that it's a super powerful alien right in front of him, he would stand his ground. And I thought that was something that's really cool.
Yeah. I don't know the actor's name, unfortunately, but he's also the chef in Wet Hot American Summer, and he's in this as well.
Chris Maloney.
That's it. He's so good. He's so good.
That whole thing with the a good death is its own reward. With Feora, where they fly Kal-El's ship into the world engine and then cause the Phantom Zone. I thought that was cool too. I liked that little throwback of, he managed to not only that Superman had not only saved him, and he'd sort of said, no, he's not our enemy. And he was sort of the first one that acknowledged that despite the fact that they're all Kryptonian, that Superman was actually trying to help them. And then that a good death is its own reward coming back, and him saying it again to her as he took her out. There has been a little, I don't want to say theory because I don't think anybody believes that it's true, but somebody posted, we're going to break him out of the Phantom Zone, give him a Green Lantern ring, and he's going to be Alan Scott. And he retweeted and was like, on board.
That would be cool.
I'm like, okay, I'm happy with that.
Why not?
Have you seen Wet Hot American Summer, Oddsox?
No, I haven't. My brother's obsessed with it, so he always sends me like little snippets. And so I've seen Paul Rudd just kick a kid out of a car. And
that's my favorite shot in the entire thing. The way that the van swerves, the door flicks open, and like the car doesn't even stop rolling. That's my favorite shot in the entire thing.
It's great. I love that movie.
I feel like I've seen the movie. I've seen like all these random ass snippets. I haven't seen the movie.
I think it's progressively funnier as the series came out, and they were all like 15 years older than they were when they filmed.
Oh yeah, all the Netflix ones, they're great.
Even funnier, Anyway, so there's obviously a lot to the film. Sandro did mention that, and this was a conversation we had earlier, that he felt like, geez, that fight scene, the final action sequence is really long.
Yes.
Which I pointed out, yes, it is really long because it's sort of like three. There's like, it starts in Smallville and then it's in Metropolis and then it's just in versus Zod. But then I said, but when he got to the museum and then he was just before he killed Zod, I thought to myself, oh shit, are we here already? which is weird because I know that it's long, but at the same time, it sort of went, and I was sort of like, oh, that's where we're at already. Obviously, visuals on the fight scene were just fantastic, and I think a lot of that early on, as you were saying in the previous episode, Sandro, was something that we hadn't seen much of in terms of Superman. Like, we didn't really get that sort of speed or strength that we know the character's capable of in any of the other films, and I think that was something that jumped out then too.
Yeah, the technology finally caught up to the character, I think, with this one.
Yeah.
That final fight is, I think it's like 50 minutes long or something. It's a good portion of the movie. I was going to time it, but then I forgot when the battle started, and I didn't actually check how long it was. But it is quite long. It almost feels kind of James Cameron-esque, because he always has that like that fake ending, or like that fourth act that kind of kicks in like the final battle. It almost felt like it could have been that, but it didn't go as hard as James Cameron does usually, which I am quite glad of, actually, because his films are tiring at times. But it is quite long.
That's obviously as the ship goes down and then Zod comes out.
Of course.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of an issue of pacing personally. Like, especially like we say the false finish when the thing actually exploded, and then I felt like that would have been a really nice end to it, and then they've gone on and done the other act, and I just felt like you can't get too much of a good thing, and it was a bit like I personally was a bit like, I'm a bit over this now. Like we've done this for a while. Let's find like where the ending's going to be. Yeah, don't attack me, Snyder fans.
Are you effing stupid?
I do want to talk about that line and that scene soon, though.
Yes, we will get to that. A couple of things that I wanted to point out. One thing that I remember was a big deal back in the day was that as he punches Zod into space and Zod hits a satellite, you can actually clearly see on there that it's a Wayne Enterprises satellite, and that was a cool thing. As the film came out, that was something that was really cool.
Yeah, there's a LexCorp tanker as well at one point that he crashes into.
I think that a lot of people say that and obviously the fact that Marvel films are full of very obvious jokes and humor, and you could almost call a lot of them comedies. In fact, they do have a few, like you say, Thor Ragnarok's, which are just comedies. For all that, I feel like there's a lot of very subtle humor in the films that I always just have a bit of a grin on my face. One that I thought was fantastic was during the Zod and Superman fight, when they're in the construction site and Zod jumps up and goes to smack him with the bar. And as he pulls the bar out, he goes to swing, and Superman like melts most of it, and he sort of like misses. And then he swings back and he hits him. And as he hits him, he flies backwards and hits this wall that says, days since last accident, 106.
Yes.
And as he hits the wall, the 1 and the 6 fall off, so it says 0.
Yes. I did laugh at that.
Yeah, it's like, it's there. It's sort of a blink if you miss it, but it's like, all right, it just gives you a little smile, particularly in a scene like that is quite intense.
There's some that work and some that, like, I don't particularly love the "what if I need to tinkle" line, which is like one who says that, but also it is a joke. Yeah. So that has always been a weird one for me. And then also, I just think he's hot at the very end. Is also a bit like
Christina Red. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate that. I don't hate the fact that that line comes up, because I think that what makes it great isn't the line itself, but again, Swanwick, his reaction, just like, oh god, like I think that's what makes it funny. Not the line itself. But
I wrote a couple other down that I didn't particularly care for.
Mm-hmm.
they say it always goes downhill after the first kiss.
I would agree.
And then-
Yep.
That's for humans. I'm an alien.
Mm.
Who says that?
I feel like that's maybe some foresight. They have their first kiss, and then he ends up killing a guy immediately after. But
Oh yeah.
There was another one.
I just thought of that. I haven't actually,
Mm.
picked that apart, but it is interesting to note.
That is
Yeah, there was-
yeah. I don't know.
There was a couple. I'll be honest with you. That was probably something my biggest pet peeve about the film. That I was like, I found the film super fun, super like a lot of really cool things. But I found with some of the dialogue, there was a lot of one-liners to me that missed. That it was like everyone was trying to be the smartest person in the room, and then it's like it's almost
I feel
like
like a lot of that comes from Lois. But
yeah, but
I don't know
to me,
whether that's maybe her character though.
yeah, but I felt it was like, and I can't exactly. I'm looking through what I've written down, and I should have written down more. So like, I'm gonna have shit all evidence, but
No, please
just-
read out a couple of what you got.
no, I don't really have anything written down. So I thought I'd written down more. But there was a few moments I found. I think the Tinkle line, a few things like that were I found that sort of took me out of the film because it was just like trying to say these one-liners and and to me that really the dialogue I thought was probably the weakest part of the film.
Yeah, it's because like Nolan and Goya would have come straight off Dark Knight Rises, which is also full of like I was born in the shadows, all that sort of stuff, like one-liners that aren't quite as good as what has come before in the trilogy. So I think perhaps maybe as a writing team they could have just been a bit low on material, maybe, but that is something that I did notice in this one. Some of the one-liners felt a little bit, I don't know, weaker than they potentially could have been.
It's probably the reason that the next film then had dialogue written by Chris Terrio, who won an Oscar for screenwriting with Argo, and was sort of brought on with Ben Affleck as they did that. I remember being like thinking back at the time, like, why would you take David S. Goya off this when he's just done The Dark Knight as well? But again, like looking back, you could sort of acknowledge that, there are aspects of the dialogue, and I feel like it's any sort of film like that aren't perfect, but it's not necessarily enough to make it bad. Just, okay, that wasn't great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's just me. So, talking Sandro on.
Are you effing stupid?
This entire scene. Let's go on. You said you wanted to talk a bit further about that. How did you find this as like an ending or one of the ending scenes?
I like the ending and where it leaves all the characters. I think that's great. I love the Daily Planet scene. I think that's just so well done. My issue is, who would say, "Are you effing stupid?" I don't believe that no one's around, by the way. It's just this one other person in a car and Superman. Are you afraid to swear in front of this potentially second coming of Jesus, as the film's kind of set him up to be? Is that why he doesn't want to? But yeah, I don't believe that he would say that. And also, it's a PG-13 movie. You're allowed to get one F-bomb in there. Why not just drop it?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I personally would read that in maybe military background, but you sort of look at that and go, outside of basic training, I feel like they're all pretty well. Maybe that's a reason, but I can't say that I disagree with you either. So
it's kind of funny though. It is kind of funny. It is like a memeable moment, and that's fine.
You know what?
That's what you want.
It's a perfect little button for my show here. So
exactly.
Oddsox?
Oh, as in dumb line. Sorry, I'm googling quotes because it's really bothering me.
It's bothering me. No. I want to hear what your exact Google search is. Bad Man of Steel lines.
I just said like quotes from Man of Steel because I just reckon that I'm probably being sensitive. But yeah, just drop a C-bomb. Why not? PG-13.
Yeah, that's right.
I've heard that Batman will in Justice League too. I mean, he's dropping an F-bomb in the first one. That's the only way to go up for the sequel, right?
That's right. That's right. And then as you said, the final scene with the final scene with the Daily Planet and Clark, realizing that if this is what he's going to do, he needs to be somewhere where he can be on the scene, and it's not a strange thing that he's on the scene. Obviously, setting up for a potential sequel, but Clark Kent ends up at the Daily Planet. How did you find that, Oddsox?
As in him coming at the end and being Clark. Yeah, it's fine. I thought, that's something that I was like, I know this is a thing. Like, I was waiting for that moment. I was really unsure how they were actually going to tie that in because he was like, he sort of shot the shark by being, I thought he was that first. And then he met her at the job and then everything else happened. So I was more just like a tipping the hat moment being like, cool. They are going to include it.
Yeah. So this is one that Oddsox probably won't know much about, but Sandro, I want to ask you about, have you got any thoughts, positive or negative, on either Lawrence Fishburne's portrayal of Perry White or the fact that they have Jenny Olsen as the intern rather than Jimmy Olsen?
I'm always big fan of Lawrence Fishburne. So anything that he's in, I think it elevates it to a slightly higher level. He's fantastic. I think he's pretty good in the role. He doesn't have too much to do. Like it doesn't really lean into his charisma much, but and that moment, like when he saves the intern as well, is fantastic. Yeah, the Jimmy Olsen thing. Look, I've never really been a massive Jimmy Olsen fan anyway. Like in the original movies, I don't think he's great. In the comics, he is. Was he in Smallville? He was for a season, wasn't he?
He was for a season, and they killed him. And then his camera went to his little brother, and it reveals that Henry James Olsen was his name, but he went under Jimmy, like the one who died. So they sort of were like, and Jimmy Olsen died, but he wasn't Jimmy Olsen. It was his older brother, Henry Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah. Smallville. I love it, but also like...
I know. Lots of like that.
Yeah. I don't think it really matters. I mean, he's in the ultimate cut for BVS anyway. I mean, he gets... I won't spoil it, but, he's in it.
It doesn't spoil away.
Oh, well, they kill him off pretty...
So Jimmy Olsen in the comics was Clark's photographer, Clark and Lois's photographer who worked at the Daily Planet. I'm pretty sure he had had his own series as well, like The Adventures of Jimmy Olsen and Superman or something like that. And he was the photographer who took all the photos of Superman.
He had a ring that could summon Superman whenever he wanted or something. It was pretty fun. I quite like his character in the comics, but it doesn't really suit this universe, I don't think. So I'm kind of glad they didn't necessarily bring him in yet. In the future, maybe. We'll see.
Who knows? I guess that's, pretty much the entire film. There were obviously aspects that we didn't necessarily go over in too much detail. I wanted to point out to you, Oddsox, because I know I mentioned it to Sandro. In terms of CGI, did you notice at all that Zod's suit is actually the majority CGI, like the whole thing?
Sorry, can you say that again, dude? You just dropped out there.
Yeah, so I was just saying, did you notice that Zod's like big armored suit was actually pretty much entirely CGI? Because that was something that I personally found out like last year, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, when it was doing like cool stuff for sure, but I thought like the CGI I couldn't fault at all. Like I've been watching a lot of 70s films recently, and I quite recently watched the original Terminator, and so I was
believe it or
watching
not,
this,
by comparison.
Yeah.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Yeah, I did realize it was CGI, but I thought, I couldn't fault it. It was pretty great. Like, I think the CGI in this film, there was not one moment where it broke immersion to being like, that is shit. Like, it was just constantly like,
No. Yeah. And with like Zod as well, I feel like the way Michael Shannon plays him is so, I don't want to use the word cartoony, but it's very over the top.
Almost
and
comic booky, would you say?
Yeah, I guess so. And he doesn't look human either. I don't know what it is, if it's his facial hair, the way he looks.
It's the hair. It's the way his hair is like.
It's like coming down.
It's like coming down, but also like split into like little triangles.
Yeah,
I think
it's very alien, and I think that like it's what Zack Snyder does really well, which is like hide some elements of visual stuff that might not work like really well, and making him look so alien does make, if the suit ever looks a little weird, you're like, well, he's an alien. Look at his face. So
yeah, no, that's fair. We didn't really touch on Michael Shannon at all. The actor who played Zod, Oddsox. Did you? Was that something that you thought was positive? Did you like him in the role? Was there anything that stood out from him? I know, like, obviously, as we said, he's very comic booky. He's very he is definitely a villain from the comics. Is there something that something that you felt like was a negative for the film?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you call it a positive or a negative. Like, it was obviously so far over the top, but I think that, like, coming in going, this is a comic book movie, to me, it makes sense. So I wasn't thinking, but like, if, like, you can imagine, like, coming into this, like, as an acting performance, I wouldn't say it's great either. Like, it is just kind of like a lot. But I don't know, man. Like, it's far. Like, I'm sitting on the fence here, but I think that it makes sense in the context of Superman. But in terms of, like, was it a good acting performance in general? Probably not.
Yeah, it's hard with him as well because he's been in so many incredible things, and to compare this performance to like The Shape of Water, it is a bit like he's not he's working at maybe 50% potential, but for the movie, I think like in terms of the context, as you said, it works.
Yeah, and for the role. So I guess then just elements of story. Did you find that there was anything like aspects of it that you felt like as a story, was it cohesive? Oddsox, you mentioned some that you felt with the amount of action towards the end that there was pacing problems. Obviously, we spoken about flashbacks and how that can obviously
flashbacks. I never had an issue with flashbacks. I think that the only other pacing thing I felt a bit strange was meeting Lois to them being like glue was very quick. But at the same point, that's fine. I think the main issue with pacing for me was, like, I thought the film could be a bit shorter and like cut out some of the action of it. But I thought how they pieced together flashbacks and how they told his story, like, it wasn't a massive amount of character development, but it's at the same point, it's like, I did get the nuts and bolts of knowing, like, what's his motivations, how he got there, and how he became the dude that he did.
One thing I just wanted to point out on that, and then we'll go into you with the same question, Sandro, but one aspect I would find regarding him and Lois is I feel like a lot of the film spent a lot of time setting up the fact that because he couldn't reveal who he was unable to sort of connect to people, and that's what sort of alienated him. So for then Lois he never told her, she put all the pieces of the puzzle together, that by the time they properly met, she was already someone who knew his secret. So it was like the one thing that he always felt he couldn't open up to people about was something that she figured out before they even really knew each other. So they almost went in straight into this relationship or this personal relationship that he'd never really been able to experience outside of with his parents because he was never able to tell people that. So that it was sort of like something that was, then able to build quickly. And look, you're probably not wrong. There was aspects of it too quickly, but I think that the first half of the film sort of explains, at least to me, why he might feel connected to someone like her because she's the only one outside of his parents who actually know who he is.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Sandro. Just again, same question, story. Unless Oddsox, you.
No, all good. I need to get a thing to charge my laptop. 2 seconds.
All good. Yeah, with the story, it's an odd film. I remember the first time I reviewed it back in 2013. My thing with it as well was that it's a character piece, but with minimal character development. Like a lot of his arc is told in flashbacks, which is fine. I think that works. I like the character, obviously. I've been a fan for a while. But I do have to, question that there isn't much of a journey here. He's kind of going from point A to point B, and he's not changing too much as a character. Like that overall journey isn't really there, but at the same time, it's not there in the Dark Knight movies either, in my opinion. So it's kind of the same. They're quite passive audience experiences. They don't ask you to necessarily care about the characters. They're just asking you to watch the events play out, which is fine because the events look great. So that's always kind of been my one issue with the film is the characters aren't as fleshed out as they could be. But also it's not as I'm putting these words together awfully, but I think you get what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, the last thing that I sort of want to say on that is, the last question I have for you. Obviously, Sandro, you've seen this before, but I will come off you first, and then we'll ask you, Oddsox. But having watched this time as if it was, say, your first time back in 2017, 2013 even, is this something that you looked at and go, this is something that I want to see more of? I know, I've liked this for whatever reasons. I want to see more of Henry Cavill as Superman. I want to see more of this world.
Yeah, I think, from the get-go, I've always just been like, Henry Cavill, I just want to see more of him in this character. I just want to see more Superman in general. It is a shame how Warner Brothers, I think, have treated not only the character of Superman, but Henry Cavill as an actor.
I would absolutely agree.
Yeah, like he's the most important superhero of all time. He is basically number one, and the way they've treated him is quite. I'm not a massive fan of that. I would love to see a Man of Steel 2 in the future. The multiverse is a thing, so they could do that and the J.J. Abrams film at the same time, or combine them both, have two Supermen flying around. That could be cool.
I feel like that's what's going to happen. I feel like it's going to be a Earth 2 or Earth 32, like sort of Val Zod or Calvin Ellis situation. Particularly as Danny Garcia, who is Henry Cavill's manager, after all the uproar the other day about Henry Cavill, she posted a thing saying, I can't say anything because of NDAs, but big things coming. So, you never know. But we'll pass on that question to you, Oddsox. Having seen this film, is it something that you look at? Obviously, again, knowing your opinions on superhero films, the fact that you prefer that sort of grounded reality. Did you find it something that you went, okay, I wouldn't mind seeing where this goes by the end of the film?
I reckon Henry Cavill, he obviously was brilliant. So I think that if they gave him like a Superman film that was more grounded and less about we're trying to defeat someone, more about, okay, who is this guy? and like get to know his motivations and all the rest. That's something I'd super be interested in. I don't know.
Just on that, it's hard because obviously I look at something like the Dark Knight movies, which I don't necessarily feel like, despite the fact that Grounded is thrown around a lot, I don't necessarily feel like they fleshed out who Bruce Wayne is that well either. And I feel like they spent a lot more time on the villains than they ever did the hero. And I feel like a lot of that is because, most general audiences sort of know who Batman is, who Superman is. But
this is the thing. I know a lot more about Batman.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. But what I guess what I was leaning towards with that is for you seeing this character who is so super powered and so built up. What would you want to see in a villain going forward if they were to do a sequel in a reality that was more grounded? What would you want to see from a villain?
From a villain, that's really
because I mean, for me, the interesting thing about this film was, as I'd said, the technology had finally caught up, and we could see Superman fighting the way we've never seen him before. So though the fight sequence was long, the action was so fantastic to me because that was a character, Superman can do that, but we've always seen it be like really slow and sort of lame. So what sort of thing would you like to see from a villain going forward? For him, I reckon it wasn't to be a all-out punching war.
I reckon the biggest thing you could do is make it like some more like emotional weight in what the villain is doing, and like say targeting the people around him. I know they did that in parts, but like really like going into that and going into like the best Superman I would like to see. Do you know the Five for Fighting song? It's Not Easy.
No.
I'm more than a bird. I'm more than a plane. Yeah. You know how that goes really. I knew you'd know it. I'm just like, bullshit, you don't know this.
It's just like, wait. We just wanted really to see it.
Yeah. It was our grand plan all along.
I haven't got auto-tune. It's not as good.
That's why we put this entire podcast together, was to hear you sing that.
That's right.
And it worked.
But really going into like the psyche of like why it's so difficult to be super, like why like this is such a burden to have, and I think like getting a super villain that really exploits that and really like brings that out in depth would be really cool.
Yeah. Okay, well we'll wrap it up here. I guess the last thing is we've obviously got letterboxd ratings we were discussing beforehand. This is the only film that I've got on mine that I've given a 5-star. I said I understand where the flaws are. I understand why people believe in that. I don't have any other films with 5-star ratings because I figure if you can't give a 5-star rating to your favorite films, when can you? This is one of my favorite films. Superman's been my favorite character since I can remember. And yeah, so that's where I'm at. 5-star with it. Sandro?
It's been at 3.5 since 2013, and I don't think it's changing. I think 3.5 is good. It's that for me a solid 75%.
We've got this guy playing the Newlyweds game over here. He's written down his answer. He's going to show the crowd. Oddsox, what have you given it? Drum roll.
Excellent.
A 3 out of 5 or 3.5?
3 out of 5. There's no joke there. I wish there was.
No, that's fair enough. Well, look, I would love to. Yeah, so that's a bad rating. Yeah, whatever the maths is, it's bad. It's under 1 star. So, obviously, boys, with Zack Snyder's Justice League on the way, a lot of the reason I started this channel, I will be rewatching Batman vs Superman. If this is something that interests you, I would love to have you guys on again for a similar discussion. Again, Oddsox, this being something that you haven't seen before, I would say we'll be watching the Ultimate Edition because the theatrical one was just before the film came out, the studio mandated that 30 minutes be cut. The film is 3 hours long, so a sixth of the film, which was mainly exposition and important things, was cut, and then the theatrical, and then the theatrical cut had less than stellar reviews, and the studio weren't happy with it. But again, studio stupid decision. Not that it's again for everyone. I think a lot of people didn't necessarily like the film to begin with, and a lot of people like to say more of a bad film won't make it good. But I have seen a lot of people whose opinions have changed. I've actually seen a lot of Snyder fans and met a lot of Snyder fans over the years who said they really, really disliked the film when they saw it in the cinema, ultimately watched the Ultimate Edition, and it made them massive fans of him and changed the way they saw the film. Now, I don't know whether that's going to happen for you. You may not like it. You may like it. I know, Sandro, you were saying you didn't like the theatrical as much. You preferred the...
I was pretty underwhelmed with the theatrical. I definitely like the Ultimate a little bit more. I do have thoughts, but if we're going to do an episode on that, I'll save it for then.
Absolutely. So boys, where can they find you?
Sandro?
Sure. Yeah. That right there on everything. It's a good thing about having a name like mine. All the handles are available. So, just there everywhere. On Insta, Twitter, don't really use it though. And Letterboxd, I do a podcast called Oldie but a Goodie as well. And Nerd Out, Clue, you guessed it on that ages ago for Deadpool 2. You can probably still find the episode. It's probably still up there.
That was a lot of fun when we did a Deadpool 2 episode. It's something that I told my dad that I was starting this podcast, and the first thing he said is, "Oh, when you did that episode on that, I thought you were really enjoying what you were talking about, and you were having a really good time, and I always thought that you'd do good doing that. So I'm glad that you're starting your own." I think my dad's listened to that one episode multiple times. So
excellent. Yeah, no, it was a fun episode. And then the podcast is Oldie but a Goodie as well. We're watching films from 1987 in like the order they came out. We're actually doing Superman 4, I think, in August, which I'm very much looking forward to because that film is awful, but also amazing.
Am I remembering correctly that John Cryer played Lex Luthor's like nephew or cousin or some shit?
Yes, he does. Yes, his nephew. He's got like a lot of like bling on.
John Cryer in 1987. I need to.
And then he went on to play Lex in Supergirl as well, which is a really good performance.
I've got the DVDs of all the old ones that I don't even think I've seen for, which people have said. That's fine.
It's awful. It's really bad.
Well, let me know when it's coming up, and maybe I'll join in.
Sure, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Oddsox, where can they find you?
Unlike this man, Oddsox was taken on all the handles. Some asshole just took that, so I'm Oddsox music on everything due to that fact. Places I'm most active is YouTube and Instagram, and also just Oddsox, not Oddsox music on Spotify. And I also exist in the real world.
No, you don't.
So where can they find you?
Square.
Like your actual address.
Where's my address? Nanya.
I asked where they can find you. You told me you exist in the real world. So give us an address.
You can find me somewhere, usually in a pub in Brunswick.
Nothing wrong with that. You Brunswick hipster. I'm going to start calling you Lex Luthor's nephew. And I'm going to wrap it up there, boys. Thank you for joining me, and we'll hopefully chat for episode 2, Batman vs Superman, Ultimate Edition. We'll see you later.
Beautiful.
I've been ready from the jump. Tell me anything, but never tell me that I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm on. You can bet I've been above. You can never see me like I'm John. Seen it on the song. Yeah, we kicking in the whip, boy. Then vroom vroom. Invisible a Bitcoin, but all around we taking over the world. I'm making home with the girl, head to tail like a flip coin. You can take it how you want. I've been up having fun. Yeah, baby, this ain't a disjoint. I ain't famous, I'm a boss. I've been up stacking sauce. Do you share the